Hey everyone, this is Kristen, and today I want to talk about asking great questions to help you navigate the healthcare system in 2023. And why I'm saying 2023 specifically is because, things change all the time, and so these questions might not be entirely relevant in years to come. We might have advanced in our technology and whatnot by then, but hopefully they will be able to help you with your next appointments and helping to navigate the healthcare system. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this was in my experience in navigating the healthcare system, and I'm in the United States, so I know this might be a little bit different in different countries. But it can be really challenging when you have a chronic illness and you have chronic symptoms you might not know the answer for. You already have that as a stressor in your life. And then maybe you have other things outside of that. Of course, maybe you have a full-time job, or you're a parent, or you're helping other family members. Maybe you're a caregiver. It can be really difficult and time-consuming to navigate the healthcare system and to think of things in real time when you're in appointments, to think of the questions that will really help you get to your next step in a way that's helpful and that will help you move to a point where you're getting management of your symptoms at least, and a treatment that is really helpful for you. So these are questions that I have found really helpful in my experience, or are questions that in retrospect I wish I had asked earlier on. And so I'm hoping that they will be helpful for you. These are not all-inclusive, you must ask these questions kind of things. These are more so a springboard of questions for you to develop your own questions even. If you think of additional ones that are more relevant to your experience and more relevant to your symptoms, that's what we're after. It's something that will help you get to that next step. And I've divided this up into two sections, into questions to ask before and during appointments. Those questions are more targeted to listening to your body, getting to know your symptoms, the characteristics of your symptoms, recognizing any kind of patterns, and being able to recognize and communicate those to your healthcare provider. The second video is questions to ask during and after appointments. So those are really I have found, at least for me, more difficult questions to think of in the moment. I might be having an emotional response like during the appointment, and it might be difficult for me to think about those kind of things. So I wanted to get those on paper in a way that you would have them if you needed them during an appointment, so that and I've created these into both Word documents and PDF documents. I'm hoping that they'll both upload to YouTube. We'll see how that goes. But it's so that if you wanted to, you have the space to write in your own. You can write in your own questions to ask. You can highlight the questions you do want to ask. And you have something visual there with you, so that in case, if you're like me, like I tend to forget really important things. There's just a lot of information that I have in mind to communicate to my provider, like when I'm going into these appointments. So my strength is having things in writing, right? And so if I'm in an appointment, I can have something in writing, and I'm having, symptoms that day. If I'm having a migraine, if I'm having brain fog and memory issues, then I have something in front of me to back me up. So I have found that to be very helpful. So I'm going to divide those two topics, the questions to ask before and between appointments and the questions to ask during and after appointments, into two different videos, because I venture to think that these are going to be a little bit more lengthy. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about questions to ask before and between appointments. And I want to preface this by saying that these are things to ask in non-life-threatening situations. If you feel that you're dying, if you are afraid you're having a heart attack, a stroke, you're unable to breathe, if you are in a life-threatening situation, those are not the times to ask these questions. These are more introspective, reflective questions. If you're in a life-threatening situation, please call 911, 911, just 2 ones in the US, 911, and get help for yourself to get out of that situation. Another caveat is that if you have been diagnosed with functional neurological disorder, in my understanding, and I'll use this as an opportunity to say I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I am just someone speaking from their own experience. In my understanding of what I have learned about functional neurological disorder, focusing on the symptoms themselves in that condition can actually make things worse. And there's a whole neuroscience behind that I can't explain very well, so I'm not going to try to do that here. But if you want to look into that, there are some great videos on FND Hope that has a YouTube channel if you want to look into that. But if you're finding that your introspection or your reflection is making your symptoms worse, that might be something you want to look into. Okay, so the goals of asking these questions before and between appointments are to really learn how to listen to your body. It's to learn, what do your symptoms feel like? What are the patterns that you're seeing? Can you identify any triggers? And the idea here is to think of how you want to communicate that to a healthcare provider, right? So in my understanding, healthcare providers in med school, they learn what specific symptoms are characteristic of certain conditions, and that's what helps them come to a diagnosis. And a lot of the time, when you go into a doctor's appointment, they're going to ask about your chief complaint or the chief issue that you're dealing with. What is concerning you the most that you want addressed during that appointment? And I think asking these questions can help you get to that answer so that you find that your communication is effective. So I think part of some of the issues in communication that come up between providers and patients is that we as patients might be communicating things, we don't necessarily know what our diagnosis is. We might have certain ideas of what it could be, but we're trying to communicate, like these very subjective feelings, like the doctor can't feel them for us. So, especially in an invisible illness and trying to communicate that. So if you're having migraines or chronic pain or chronic fatigue, and you might have neurological symptoms where you might have burning sensations or tingling or numbness, loss of feeling, those specific words can help doctors understand the nature of the pain and what might be causing it. And so I think it's also important to remember that we might each interpret what we're feeling, and doctors might interpret what we're saying differently than the way that we intend, right? And I don't want to go too far into this because I think it can get into like craziness that's not helpful, like just crazy making and like getting too precise and like getting perfectionistic about it, and I don't want to go there. But just from an awareness standpoint, I think it's good to have in mind that what we say can influence the way that doctors perceive our experience. And so these specific questions, and some of these I've already broached on, what do your symptoms feel like? What kind, are you having pain? Is it more of a discomfort? Is it an annoyance? Is it sharp pain, dull pain, radiating pain? Does the pain happen at certain times of day or when you're doing certain activities? What parts of your body are affected? Have those changed over time? Have you noticed any changes from the very start of symptoms to where you are today? And if you have more recent changes, what have those been like? What is your family medical history? And for me, this one was a huge one because I ended up having Ehlers-Danlos, and I had no idea that it was in our family potentially. And that was key in helping me get a diagnosis, because before that point, I had actually been evaluated for Ehlers-Danlos, and they thought that I didn't have it. And granted, those were from folks that were not specialized in that area, and I didn't have the full set of information to give to them that my family members were experiencing those symptoms. So they had a limited picture, but that's just to kind of reinforce that, having that information ahead of time can be extremely helpful and time-saving in getting you to a diagnosis that can help you get the care that you need. If you have a bunch of different symptoms in your family, but maybe your family members don't go to the doctor, maybe they don't know that their symptoms are pointing to a certain condition, what symptoms can you communicate to your provider that can help them know, hey, I think there might be something going on in our family. We don't have a diagnosis yet, but this is what the symptoms look like. That can help them understand, oh, this isn't necessarily some kind of spontaneous condition or new thing happening with you. It actually might be something genetic, and that can be really helpful. And these questions coming up here are questions to help you understand and help your doctor understand the impact that your symptoms are having on your life. And so I think that's really important to communicate, because patients are coming in one after the other, and doctors are taking in these long lists of symptoms. If you can kind of contextualize it and give them a more contextual view, a more comprehensive view of the impact on your life. Say, I'm having migraines every day, and that's preventing me from going to school, or it's preventing me from being able to go out with my friends. I find that I'm exhausted by the end of the day because I'm in pain all the time. I'm not able to participate in worship services in my faith community because I'm sensitive to sound. I find that I withdraw from normal social situations that I would enjoy just because of the noise level and because of my other symptoms. I'm in pain, there's light, and I need to be away from that. And so I feel disconnected socially. Maybe you have symptoms that are affecting your family life. Maybe you're not able to run the vacuum because, you're having sensitivity to sound. I'm using sensitivity to sound because that's what I'm very familiar with. But, fill in the blank with what you're experiencing. Is it preventing you from spending the time you want with your kids? Is it causing communication issues between you and your spouse? So those kind of questions can really help paint the picture for doctors when they're hearing all of these symptoms, that might not be connected. But if you can show kind of a picture of your life, a slice of your life for them, then that will help them understand the urgency. It'll help them understand the importance of finding care for you that will really help. And then these questions, I think, are really important for you to know going into an appointment in terms of what your goals are. What is your greatest need? And I think another question that's great to ask is, what symptom is causing me the most grief right now? What symptom is the one that I am struggling with the most? Is it the migraine pain? Is it the chronic fatigue? Is it neurological symptoms that are causing me issues? Is it because I'm having intermittent muscle weakness? Is it because I'm having breathing issues and that's really concerning? What is your number one concern? And being able to communicate that to the doctor is gonna put you on a path where you're going to be able to get to where you need to go. Another great question to ask before an appointment is, what type of provider can help me address my greatest need? So, chronic illness can come with so many impacts to our life, right? So, psychologically, like if you have a rare disease that nobody's understanding and you're constantly feeling like you have to prove that there's something wrong, like that has a psychological impact, right? So maybe you want to seek out a therapist to be able to support you in that. Like if you're having support issues at home, if you don't have family members or friends that are hearing you out, that are listening to you, that if you're having people in your circle that don't believe you, that therapy can be really helpful and supportive, and it can be a really effective way to help you even navigate your healthcare plan with your other physicians, so they can provide that support and encouragement that you need. Do you need to see maybe a general practitioner? And I think another thing that factors into this, at least in the US, is what kind of insurance plan do you have? Do you have insurance? If you don't have insurance, what are your options there? If you have an HMO, for example, then you might be required to get a referral. If you're looking to see a specialist, you might have to go through your primary care physician to be able to get that referral. If you have a PPO, you might not need that referral. Something else to keep in mind is it might be helpful if you are looking for a specialist in a particular area, then depending on the healthcare network you're in, even if you have a PPO, they might still require that you get a referral. It's crazy, I know, but I've had to deal with that. Thankfully, like in my situation, like getting a referral from one specialist to another in that network was very easy, and they were supportive of that. But just something to be aware of. So, do you need a specialist? Do you need a general practitioner? Do you want to see a therapist? Are there other like alternative medicine doctors that might be able to support your care? Do you need to go for a massage? Like what is the thing that you need the most right now? And who can help you get there? So here's another one that's been helpful for me. If you think you have a specific condition, how did you come to that conclusion? So this is really helpful for me because I am an INFJ, for those who follow the Meyers-Briggs, and so I can have very strong emotional reactions. I tend to absorb a lot of information from my environment, from what I read, and I have a lot of information in there, and so I can have a very strong emotional reaction in an appointment, and the emotion happens quicker than my brain can unpack it all. And so this is a good question for me to ask in advance, because it helps me to logically lay out the rationale of why I believe my symptoms may point to a specific condition. And this has been especially helpful in situations where I felt like I might be dealing with a rare disease. Like for me, I've been seeking out a periodic paralysis diagnosis to rule it in and rule it out, or rule it out. And I'm seeking a second opinion about that. And I have my rationale laid out based on those diagnostic criteria. And so if you can, the more information that you can find out about a condition, especially if you think that that's something you may have, in my experience, that can be really helpful, because when you go into appointments, doctors are going to be asking those questions as well. And if you can answer those, then that will help them understand why you think what you're thinking, essentially. And this is something I kind of touched on before, but what is the goal for that next appointment that you're going into? Do you want to see a specialist? Do you need to seek out a second opinion? Are you at the beginning of your journey and you're having a bunch of symptoms that you don't know what the heck is going on? And you just need somebody to point you in the right direction just to have a start. So what is that specific goal? And then something else to consider is how do I communicate best? So, as I mentioned, I naturally tend to present information better in writing, right? So that gives me time to think things out, to make sure that the words are communicating what I really mean, and not causing confusion. And so that's why I have notes when I'm talking, and that's why I bring notes into my appointments. If you're somebody who can think of examples on the spot, more power to you, man. Go for it. I am not that way. Like, I need to think about my examples ahead of time a lot of the time. Like, sometimes I can't think of things on the spot, but for me, it's really helpful to have thought about that information. I tend to think in more abstract terms and in patterns. So for me, thinking out the specifics, like thinking out the specific symptoms, and how they feel when I specifically experience them, those triggers, and that, like, asking that question, how do I communicate best, can help you determine, do I want somebody else with me in the appointment? Excuse me, maybe a trusted family member or a friend who has witnessed the symptoms that I experience. Do I need them there for support to help them communicate to the doctor, like, what they have seen as a third person? Do I just need to bring notes? What do I need to help me support me during that appointment? And the last, next to last question I have, what's within my control and what's outside of my control, and where can I take action? And I know that's a very loaded question that can kind of encompass everything we're talking about, right? So, like, I know, like, this has helped me kind of diffuse anxiety that I might have going into an appointment. I've had concerns about, what if I am having symptoms in an appointment and I can't communicate? Ironically, that might be an actually great problem to have. If you're actively having symptoms during an appointment and you tell the doctor that can really help them. So I would say, if you're afraid of that happening, that's very understandable, but let it happen. And just tell the doctor, hey, I'm experiencing this right now, and so it's going to be hard for me to communicate. But I want you to know that this is what's happening with me in this moment. But I know that for me, symptoms are not always in my control, so knowing that I don't have control of that helps me to have less anxiety. It helps me understand where my responsibility lies before I'm going into an appointment. I can't control the way the doctor reacts. I can't control what their ultimate decision from that appointment is. And then understanding those things can help me understand where I can take action. And that helps to put me in a proactive stance so that I'm not feeling like I'm constantly a victim in this huge healthcare system that it can be so clunky and inefficient and just problematic, which it can be very easy to feel like a victim in it. But those questions can help me understand, okay, this is not working for me. I need to do this to move to a place where this is working for me. And the last question that I have is, it's kind of a what if answer. And that's something I learned from some mental health care professionals on YouTube. Answer your what if questions. If you're having what if questions before an appointment, what if my goal isn't accomplished during that appointment? What is my backup? If I don't get a diagnosis, if the doctor doesn't want to give me a referral, what can I do? Can I go see another doctor? Can I get a second opinion? Can I take in, maybe there's new information that I disagree with? Is there a way for me to kind of take a step back and maybe reevaluate that information, whether I believe it fits for me? If not, maybe do I need to go see another doctor who will listen and who will have a more accurate picture of what I'm experiencing? do I need to reach out to a support group to understand how to navigate this specific situation? And I have found that support groups on Facebook can be extremely helpful. And maybe talking to trusted friends or family members. Maybe you had friends or family that have been in a similar situation, or who might have insight. Is there somebody that you can talk to that will help you navigate to the place that you want to be? So those are my list of questions to ask before an appointment and between appointments, and they can really help you clarify. You know, your symptoms might change over time. It's really good to like take note of those changes. And I'll go over in another video the ways that I have found to be helpful in tracking symptoms. But whatever way is best for you is what's best for you. And I think that's the beauty of asking great questions. It helps you to understand what is best for you, what is working for you, and what's not working for you. So thanks for listening. I hope this is helpful. If you think of other great questions that you have found in your process, in your diagnosis process, wherever you're at, post those in the comments below. Let us know so that maybe that will help somebody else to navigate their situation better. Or if you have found any of this helpful, if you had never thought of a specific question before, let me know. Let me know if this is helpful for you. Or if you have additional questions about asking questions, ask those too. Those are all welcome. And I will be moving on to the questions to ask during and after appointments in the next video. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and bye.